Welcome to this week's episode of That 4x4 Show. This week, I send Mr. T from east to west. We drive the Levuvuh 4x4 trail in the Kruger National Park, and we go bigger is better with the Gelandewagen Arctic truck. And we also find out how far we are exactly with that Jeep project. But first, there is a little matter of a road trip. The Subaru XV, which sells for just over 300,000 Rand, is a prime example of the species crossover. The 2-litre Boxer engine delivers 110 kilowatts and 196 newton meters of torque. So performance is okay, but just don't expect WRX or STI here. In the XV, it's more about fun, versatility, and a bit of fashion. Which begs the question, can the XV actually do road trips, like in road trips on lesser traveled back roads, rocky tracks, through water crossings, and so on? That is why I have devised a cunning plan for Mr. T. He needs to do 2,500 kilometers in a Subaru XV, starting just south of the Mozambique border and ending up on the west coast of South Africa. But he needs to do it on the road less traveled, taking in some of the most awesome scenery along the way as well.
So I'm Benny, here I am. In front of me is the Indian Ocean. I'm at Sodwana Bay. So the plan is to take the Subaru, which is right behind me now, drive it across the continent. We're doing back roads, baby. And we'll see, we're going to Port Nolloth. We'll get there, I don't know, we'll see. Let's take it.
Good luck, Mr. T. I think you're going to need it in that pavement hopping crossover. Anyway, after frolicking about in the warm Indian surf and after studying the map some and plotting a route that would see him stay as far away from any main roads as often as possible, Tumelo heads off with the Subaru XV pointing the nose west. First things first though, he has to make a quick pit stop at Botswana. Subaru needed some 95 before heading into the great unknown. Then westward he goes, attempting to go where no XV has ever gone before. At the N2 highway, Mr. T completely ignores the big nice tar road and heads for a bumpy, rocky gravel one.
So is behind me, we're on a proper dirt road, on our way to Vryheid. Now we're rolling, the journey begins.
Okay, so we've already established that this XV ain't no WRX or STI rally-based hypercar, but it does have Subaru's permanent forward drive system as well as a very well sorted suspension. The only possible chink in its armor here may be those fancy-pantsy 17-inch wheels, shod with low-profile performance rubber. Anyway, so far so good. At least there seems to be a few places of car repairs here in KwaZulu-Natal, even in the middle of nowhere. Mr. T is doing well. Before he could say asymmetrical four-wheel drive system, he arrives in Vryheid. Sticking to his brief, he takes the lesser-known roads to Nkutu. Then aims for Newcastle, sticking to those lesser-known roads. This was going way too easy for my liking. Mr. T soon dispatches Newcastle, and with the sun heading for a snooze, it was time to find an abode for the night. And Mr. T and the Scooby arrive in the old-world town of Meermal in the Free State. Just as a car crosses the road, drinking water from the hotel's fountain, with a slightly excited dog adding extra drama. After about 600 kilometers in the saddle, Mr. T was ready for a cold one.
Taking in the aura of Meermal. A proas of een engel op my tong.
Yeah, whatever, Tumelo. I don't think tomorrow is going to be such a breeze. Best you get a good night's rest.
Day 2, starting off, Meermal Hotel. At the bar yesterday we heard about the route adventure bikers use. We're gonna try that out. So yes, another day in Africa.
I like a late start, I see. Have to see how far Mr. T gets today. First, it was time to feed the Scooby. Up until now, the XV drank an average of around 8.5 liters per 100 kilometers, which is pretty awesome for a permanently four-wheel drive vehicle. Following the directions from the friendly folk at the Memel Hotel, Tumelo follows the dirt roads that lead in the direction of the Normandin Pass. Initially, the landscape was all Free State, flat, brown grasslands, but soon it changes. It turns into beautiful mountains with a spectacular road that snakes through it. Before long, Mr. T arrives at a most amazing lookout point called the Ark.
This is a viewpoint called the Ark, but there's Noah's not here, but the wind is howling. So we're on our way to Normandin's Pass and then eventually out of the Free State to Port Nolloth. Yo, it's cold. I hope we can find a cup of coffee.
On goes Mr. T, eventually arriving at the Normandin Pass, which is rough in places. The Scooby continues unfazed, taking in the most unexpectedly beautiful scenery of the Free State. This also proves that, despite popular belief, the Free State definitely has mountains too. The detour cost a lot of time though, so arriving at Ladysmith, Mr. T decides to make up some lost minutes by taking in one of South Africa's most infamous stretches of town, Van Riemen's Pass. After the Rocky Mountain Pass, the Scooby purrs up Van Riemen. But even with a shortcut on the N3, Mr. T is again running out of light. He's soon through Bethlehem too, but he's nowhere as far west as he hoped to be.
We made good time earlier. Unfortunately, with the roadworks, we got held up a bit. We're aiming for Warrington, but unfortunately we're in Tennyson now. We're gonna look around and see what we can find for the day and then camp over. So unfortunately it's like that, but yeah.
Okay, so Bultfontein is not exactly a bustling metropole. In fact, it's a little bit on the dingy side. But Mr. T eventually finds a place of reasonable reputation.
So we found a place to stay. We've got 1,000 kilometers to go. We've got one day. I don't know if we're gonna make it. Yo.
And so after 2 long days in the saddle, Mr. T grabs a cheeseburger at a surprisingly good takeaway shop before turning in. 1,200 kilometers are done, but another 1,000 kilometers is still on the menu. The Levuvuh 4x4 trail is one of those absolute bucket list must-do things in your life. And here's exactly why. The Levuvuh 4x4 trail is a 250 kilometer long adventure that starts near Phalaborwa and the Letaba Ranch and ends at the Kruger National's Pafuri Gate. The trail, which is a strictly guided trail only, features rough tracks, sandy riverbeds that can easily catch out the unwary, river crossings and steep ascents and descents. This is a tough trail, as a group of tough Arctic trucks experienced earlier this year, just after the rainy season. In the summer, the temperature can rise to more than 40 degrees Celsius, and out in the bush, there are no taps or facilities of one-stop shops. All the vehicles have to be completely self-sufficient over the entire 250 kilometer distance. 2 slightly shorter 4x4 trail options are also available in this area, but the Levuvuh trail remains the mother of all 4x4 trails in this part of the northern province. And in case you are wondering, all the big-wheeled Arctic trucks completed the 250 kilometers trek, which is no mean feat in itself. For more information on the Levuvuh trail, visit our Facebook page. The lads at the 4-wheel drive trucking company have been really hard at work with our Jeep Wrangler Rubicon project vehicle. And this week it gets some fancy wheel arches and an awesome set of 35-inch wheels. So while the lads from the 4-wheel drive trucking company are busy cutting a perfectly good TJM Jeep Wrangler bull bar to pieces to create a unique once-off custom unit, the Jeep made its way to a shop down the road from the 4-wheel drive trucking company.
This is where we do all the fiberglass molds. I'd like to take you inside and show you the blue Jeep quickly, as you can see what actually goes into manufacturing a mold. How's it, Donald?
Hey Gary, how's it going?
Well, and you? How's it, Frank?
Oh, good, thanks.
Good, man. Looking good.
Looking nice, eh?
Wow.
So what we've done here is we've taken the original bumper of the car, the plastic one, we've cut it back, we've trimmed it back and taken the lip off to get it closer to the body. We've then added on the lip that you see here to give it a more aggressive
Yeah, that angle.
to flip up. Originally what we did on the plastic bumper was build it up and get it square using polyester resins and polyester fillers. So what we're doing now is we're just using wooden blocks that have been cut into a V shape, and that's to give it the lip. Once we've gone this far, we'll be filling it up with body filler again and rounding the corners.
Getting that, yeah, that'll be nice and round again.
Corner round, and we'll tuck it in the bottom as well, so that it gives it a nice finish. But what we've created here is a much more aggressive look to open the tire up. Now you can put your big 35-inch wheels on this.
As you can see, it's certainly not a case of opening a catalogue and ordering replacement fenders for the Jeep, even though this is very much an option for Gary. Instead, he is creating his own fenders. It starts with the technicians building a wooden frame that simulates the fender. From here, a cast is made from fiberglass, which will act as the mold. Finally, the mold will be filled with adhesive and thin layers of fiberglass until the fenders are done. The last piece of the puzzle for the fenders, once they are ready, is paint. But more on that in another episode.
Well, thanks very much. It's looking great.
Pleasure, Gary.
When do you think I can get this vehicle back?
In about a week's time or so, it should be ready.
Fantastic.
Okay, super. Have a good day.
Cheers, eh? Bye.
So with the fenders sorted, it was time to focus on another major component of Project Jeep, and that's wheels and tires. And thanks to ATS Motorsport, the official importers of the famous American brand Mickey Thompson, this Jeep is getting all the good stuff in the wheels and tires department. The 35-inch Mickey Thompson Budger MTZ mud-terrain tires are not only tough with a 3-ply sidewall design and so-called side-biter lugs on the top of the sidewalls, they also offer excellent grip in off-road conditions. The Mickey T muds are mounted on the very latest Mickey Thompson Classic Budger lock rims. These rims feature a finely machined beadlock styling and is coated in a protective matte finish. Next week we catch up with the Jeep back in the four-wheel drive trucking company's workshop as the Arctic truck suspension, custom bull bar, a winch that looks like it can haul an 18-wheeler truck, and those beautiful new wheels and 35-inch muds are fitted. The Mercedes-Benz Gelandewagen is considered by some to be the end-all of 4x4s. Now, this military-based German vehicle certainly has all the tools to go with it, and a price tag, of course, that goes along with it. But what do you do if you find this magnificent vehicle so pretty boring? I've got a plan for you. Jawohl, the German Mercedes-Benz Gelandewagen is one tough 4x4. Originally designed on request by the Shah of Iran and the German army in the 1970s, the G-Wagon soon became a sought-after item for the hardcore off-roader fraternity. Although the Benz 4x4 has evolved over the years and is presently more popular as a super expensive fashion accessory for the rich and famous, there are still a few fans who obviously don't have any cash flow issues that use the G as a real 4x4. This is the entry-level G300 Professional, powered by a powerful V6 3-litre turbo diesel engine that is coupled to a 5-speed automatic shifter, and with front and rear lockers that can be engaged on the move. The standard Benz, even despite limited wheel articulation, is virtually unstoppable on any 4x4 track. Oh, and there's the price. At 1 million rand, it's rather expensive, and you still have to wind the windows up and down with a thing called a window winder. Okay, so you've spent $1 million on a professional, and although it is cool, you still need something, well, more. Then you take it to Gary Schwemmer at the 4-wheel drive trucking company in Pretoria East, and you hand over a blank check, and then he creates you this, the Arctic Trucks Mercedes-Benz Gelandewagen. Gary started the process by fitting a custom suspension upgrade to the G-Wagon, and rounded it off with 35-inch BF Goodrich mud-terrain tires, and just like the Project Ruby truck, custom fiberglass fenders. A beefy TJM bull bar does service at the business end of the Merc, and it is fitted with KC HID spotlights and a winch. A TJM bar also does service at the back, where the spare 35-inch BF lives. Gary created his own aluminium roof rack under the Bush Mechanic brand name for the Mercedes, and also added a ladder on the back. The rack also got the obligatory jerry cans, high lift jack, and shovel. Front lives 4 more KC HID lights. Inside, there is a drawer system, and Gary also created some practical features which one would think would have been standard in a 4x4 selling for $1 million. Like cup holders and a center console, which kind of begs the question, why? Benny van Rensburg from Mercedes-Benz Centurion has the answer.
This G-Class is the culmination of a project we started at the end of last year. Mercedes-Benz Centurion wanted to position ourselves in the leisure type market. We identified this car as the car. We've built it, Gary has tested it, he doesn't want to get out of the car. I'm going to force the man to let me drive this car now. It's high time.
Oh yes, you're probably wondering how much does this Benz cost in the end? Around 1.3 million rand. But hey, who's counting if it makes you smile like that? Some say the brand new Toyota Prado has gone all soft. Well, personally, I think that's a matter of opinion. But we decided to take it to the Four-Wheel Drive Club of South Africa's Base 4 venue and find out whether this is a 4x4 man or a mouse. This is the Toyota Land Cruiser Prado VX 3-litre D4D, which retails for 754,000 Rand. It is powered by Toyota's well-known 3-litre D4D turbo diesel engine, which delivers 120 kilowatts and 400 newton meters of torque between 1,600 and 2,800 RPM. The power is permanently transferred to all four wheels via a 5-speed automatic gearbox, and the cruiser rides on a double wishbone setup at the front and a 4-link system with a lateral rod at the back. This VX model also gets Toyota's Kinetic Dynamic Suspension System, or KDSS, which electronically alters the rebound of the shock absorbers. At the back, an air suspension adds more flexibility, and it can jack up the tail of the Prado some in off-road conditions. At the standard Base 4 track, we kick off with the axle twisters, and here the active traction control system, or ATRAC, really works a treat. As an added bonus, the Prado also has a hydraulic rear diff lock, if you prefer to get at it without the computers. The Toyota also gets a multi-terrain system, which effectively adjusts the computer to different driving conditions like rocks or sand. Here on the steep downhill section, the crawl function also keeps the speed to a predetermined level without the driver having to touch the brake. The system is quite noisy though, which can be unnerving if you are not used to it. To the mud we go, and with the terrain system turned to the mud selection, we get through absolutely painlessly. On the other side, it climbs out in a jiffy. Now for a very, very steep descent. Amazingly, it's the crawler system that is doing all the braking here. The driver is not touching the brake. Into the water she goes, and here the approach angle proves a little bit tight. The slippery mud hardly makes an impression on the Prado though. So here's our verdict. The Prado VX 3-litre D4D is an amazingly capable 4x4, limited only by its relatively low ground clearance, less than ideal approach and departure angles, and those trendy side steps. If you take the cheaper TX version and add an aftermarket suspension and some mud terrain tires, you'll end up with one heck of a 4x4 that will love overlanding. It's time to find out how Mr. T's road trip is going, and we pick up the story in a little Free State dorpie. With about 1,000 clicks to do in one day on back roads, Mr. T and the Scooby head out of Bultfontein even before the roosters have woken up. But as he heads west and as the sun begins to peek over the horizon, a new challenge arises. They call it the pothole. And this section of road between Bultfontein and Hartseville is particularly infested by potholes. But Mr. T successfully dodges every one of them and makes it to Christiaan and the Vaal River in good enough time. But it is time to head off the beaten track again and head to a little town called Levuvuh. If you wonder who on earth named the town Levuvuh, back in the 1900s, the grain settlement was named after the local dominee, as used to happen back then. This dominee's name was Reverend A.J. Willifeed, but to make it more unique, the name Willifeed was reversed and voila, Levuvuh got its unique name. But I digress, back to Tumelo and the Subaru.
We're heading out now to Uppington, a little bush, a little bit of sand, so yes!
So on Tumelo goes, regardless. Eventually, after one of the better dirt roads on the menu, he arrives at the main road to Uppington. He has to make up time to get to Port Nolloth, and this is the only way. The Subaru makes light work of the straight and open Karoo roads, with cruise control keeping the speed steady at 120 kilometers an hour. Kuruman, Olifantshoek, and then Uppington are dispatched. Kamos, Mr. T has to stop at the famous water wheel. He's so intrigued with the mechanical stuff. After he crosses the Orange River though, Tumelo gets, well, he gets thirsty.
When Kakamas now for a short break, but a pink pad stel, ons gaan bietjie koffie het. Eish, die muggies man, en 'n klagge shower.
kilometers fly by as Tumelo and the XV head west. By the time he reaches Pofadder though, he's a bit tired of all the tar, so he decides to try and find a place called Nummies, close to Pofadder. And alas, Nummies is nowhere to be found.
In the middle of nowhere, we're looking for a place called Nummies. I don't think we're gonna find it, just a dead fox. Well, it looks like a dead fox, and the boggerel grows this high.
Back to the task at hand then, as Mr. T now passes through Springbok and then hits the beautiful and oh so quiet Spectacle mountain pass. What a spectacle it is. And it's the perfect place for a driver's car like the Scooby, even though it may not be the most powerful driver's car in the world. Sweepy tar road soon makes way for a gravel road. The XV first has to head west towards Kleinseer and then north for the last stretch to Port Nolloth. This is the worst dirt road the Subaru has had to face up till now. It shakes and hops and skips as those low-profile tyres battle with corrugations. But finally, after what seems like an eternity, the Scooby, as strong as ever, finds tar again. And after nearly 2,500 kilometers, finds a town called Port Nolloth.
Look at what I found, I'm Bernie. Port Nolloth, yeah, got it, yeah. Ooh, Atlantic Ocean. Benny, yeah, we made it. Atlantic Ocean, Port Nolloth, we made it. 2,500 kilometers later. Anything you could throw at the XV, bad roads, good roads, sand, heat, we made it. So what's next, Benny? What?
Now, Mr. T, that sounds like a challenge, and I think I've got one for you. Join us next week, and we'll head off to Namibia and find a man with a special Land Cruiser and a couple of kitty cats to boot. Cheers, guys.